Okay, welcome everybody to today's class. We're looking at advanced phrasal verbs and idioms again. These are all taken from a book called Advanced Phrasal Verbs and Idioms, or Advanced Idioms and Phrasal Verbs, by Stuart Gairns and Ruth Redman, I think. But you'll find this book if you just put it into Google, Advanced Phrasal Verbs and Idioms. It's Oxford University Press. And we're already up to chapters 43 and 44. But if anyone would like a book about phrasal verbs, there is one available that I've produced. You can find it on Amazon. It's £20 for a black and white copy, and you get loads of exercises and images and lots of answers at the back as well, so you can check the answers yourself. But if you prefer to get an electronic version, you can get an electronic PDF version on skype-lessons.com. So please just go to my website and buy the PDF. It's £20 for the PDF or £20 for a black and white version of the book, or £35 for colour. But thanks, that's all I'm going to say about it. Let's get on with the lesson. So if you fall for, well, let's make one thing clear. If you fall for somebody, you fall in love with them, okay? If you fall for somebody, that means that you fall in love in some kind of way. So there is that phrasal verb, fall for somebody. But if you fall for something, then you have been deceived by a trick. Somebody has played a trick on you and you have been taken in. You have been tricked. You have been fooled. You have been deceived in some kind of way. So please, I hope none of you out there fall for any scams. Everybody knows there are a lot of online scams where somebody sends you a letter claiming to be a prince from Nigeria, and they tell you that you have inherited $1 billion, and they want you to get in touch with them and give them your bank details. Now, of course, I recommend that you don't do that, because if you do that, you will fall for a scam. You will be the victim of a scam. But if you fall for somebody, you fall in love with them. So there are at least two meanings to that phrasal verb. And I'm pretty sure that it is in the book. So please do get the book if you're interested in it. And thanks for whoever was just saying that it's a good book. I'm really pleased you like it. Now, if you're taken in, you're deceived, you're fooled. So it's exactly the same as the first one. If you vote with your feet, this is an expression that we use, which means that people will let you know if they like something or don't like something, basically by turning up. If they turn up or show up, and please remember those two phrasal verbs, they're two excellent phrasal verbs meaning appear or arrive. If you turn up for, maybe you've got optional lessons at school, maybe there are optional English classes after work or after school, and you might find that people vote with their feet. In other words, if they like the classes, lots of people turn up, they vote with their feet. And if they don't like the classes, hardly anybody turns up. In other words, they vote with their feet, yeah? And so we use this expression to say that people arrive or don't arrive, and by doing that, they show whether they like something or whether they don't like something. So quite a common idiom. Now, we say no disrespect to somebody, usually just before we criticise them. Yeah, so if we've got some kind of critical comments to make about somebody, some barbed comments, some scathing remarks, some derogatory comments, we usually say no disrespect to this person, but I'm going to slag this person off. I'm going to criticise this person. I'm going to say bad things about this person. So this is to soften it. It's to make our criticism sound polite. Before we criticise, we say no disrespect to you, but you're an idiot and I don't agree with anything that you've said. Something like that, yeah? So put it right at the start, just before you lash out at somebody with all sorts of barbed comments and scathing remarks. Okay, now to put it mildly means to put it softly, to put something in softer terms. So very often this is used when you say something like this. He earns an incredible amount of money, and that's putting it mildly. And so you're saying that it's even more than incredible. It's absolutely huge, the amount of money that he earns. And so you often put this at the end of an extreme sentence anyway, to show that it's even more extreme than you were first saying. Yeah, and so you might say something like this. The weather's absolutely atrocious today, and that's putting it mildly. Yeah, and it means absolutely terrible weather we've had. It's been chucking it down all day with rain. There's been thunder, there's been lightning, there have been floods all over the country. Maybe people have died, yeah? Because this is really to make something even stronger. You say, you know, we've had atrocious weather, and that's putting it mildly, or to put it mildly. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now, if you rip somebody or something to pieces, to shreds, pull them to pieces, tear somebody to shreds, an animal can do this, of course. Something like a bear can certainly rip you to pieces. They can certainly pull you to shreds. Okay, so that's one way you can use it in a literal sense. But you could also use this in a metaphorical sense when you're referring to criticism. And so if somebody criticizes you, you could say they tore you to shreds, yeah? And it would mean that they really got stuck in. They really said all sorts of really nasty things about your work or about what you've done. So they really made some really sharp criticism, yeah, of your work or whatever. So it can be used metaphorically as well as literally. Now, if somebody criticizes you and you take it personally, that means that you take it to heart. We very often say that. Don't take it to heart. Don't take it personally. And so if you take it personally, you get upset. Yeah, you get really upset when somebody's criticized you, when perhaps you should be a little bit more stoic. You should perhaps just not get upset and try to understand that that person's getting emotional for their own reasons, and it's not anything to do with you. It's perhaps some kind of complex that they have, or some kind of problem that they have, and they're projecting it onto you. So please don't take criticism personally. I think I will often take criticism personally, especially if it's on these videos, and I'm sorry about that if I happen to ban you, because I do ban very quickly. It's just because I take criticism too personally, and yeah, the easiest way to deal with criticism if you're making videos is just simply to ban somebody, because then you never have to talk to that person again, and you never have to hear their comments again. And that's one way of dealing with things. Just switch off, just forget about them. Okay, if someone jumps down your throat, that means they suddenly start criticizing you. It means they've suddenly started saying bad things about you for some reason or other. And so, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different situations when you could use this, but when somebody suddenly lashes out at you, suddenly has a go at you, very good suggestion. Have a go at someone. When somebody jumps down your throat, they have a go at you. It's exactly the same. I agree. So very good suggestion, Luis or Louisa, I'm not sure. Okay, if you are all for doing something, that means that you really want to do this thing. You are in favour of doing this thing. You are up for doing this thing. Be up for something means to be in favour of something. So if you say, I am up for the cinema, that means you're in favour of going to the cinema. You can use to be up for with all sorts of things. You can say to your teacher, are you up for a lesson today? Yeah, that works. Do you want a lesson today? Are you up for a lesson today? So remember this, be up for something, because it's very, very common nowadays. And it's a good phrasal verb. And again, of course, it's certainly in the book. So please do buy that book if you want to brush up on your phrasal verbs. If you are dead set against something, this means you are not in favour of it. You are totally opposed to it. You really don't like the idea of doing it. So maybe you are dead set against the cinema. Yeah, you hate the cinema, you hate watching films, it's not very sociable, you don't like the film anyway. You are dead set against the cinema. Now, if you have a bee in your bonnet about something, it means you can't stop going on about this thing. You are obsessed with it and you keep talking about it, and it sounds to me like you're irritated about it. Think of what the idiom means. Have a bee, yeah, a bee stings, they're not particularly nice when they're close to your face, in your bonnet, and a bonnet is a type of hat. So if you've got a bee in your bonnet, then you've got something that's constantly irritating you, yeah, and making you afraid and making you anxious and nervous because it might sting you. So it means that there's something really bothering you, and you just keep going on about it. You keep talking about it, you keep complaining about it, you keep whining, you keep whinging, you keep grumbling. So yeah, it's a good idiom to use, and it's quite common. Now, if you argue the toss, This means you argue about something which it's already too late to argue about. Yeah, it's all, the time's already passed that you could argue about it. It's inevitable. It's already happened, and you are arguing the toss. So there's something really futile and silly about arguing the toss because it is too late. Yeah, and think about what this means. This is from, I think it's from sport, where you toss a coin at the start of a football game to decide which side the team will play from. Yeah, you can choose sides. Maybe you want to go this side because the wind's behind you. So the toss is at the start of the match, yeah? And you can only argue about it at that time. There's no point in the referee tossing the coin. It comes out tails, you choose your side, and then you argue the toss of the coin 10 minutes later when it's already too late. You can't argue about that coin. It's already happened 10 minutes ago. So argue the toss means argue about something when it's already too late. It's already happened. It's totally futile to argue about this thing and to complain that it shouldn't have happened in that way. And so argue the toss, argue about something which it's too late to argue about. Okay? So let alone is used when you're trying to stress that something else is even more unsuitable or impossible. Let me give you an idea here. You might say something like, I don't know, he is too young to ride a bike, let alone drink a beer. Yeah, so what I'm saying here is he's too young to ride a bike, so that means he must be, what, 3 or 4 years old, yeah, really, really young. So then I say, let alone drink a beer, vote, smoke a cigarette, because these are even more unsuitable for a 3 or 4 year old, yeah, they're even more unsuitable. So something like that, he's too young to ride a bike, let alone order a whiskey at the bar. But it could be something else. You might say something like, I don't know, maybe you're familiar with the English exams. You're familiar with FCE, which is difficult exam, by the way. I think a lot of natives would fail the grammar part. In fact, I have no doubt. But you might say something like, that exam's a little bit too difficult for him. In fact, I don't think he should do the FCE exam, let alone the CPE exam. And it means the CPE exam is even more unsuitable, and it's because it's the most advanced exam. And again, I think 95% of natives would fail the grammar part or would get not a particularly amazing mark on the grammar part for that exam because it's really hard. Now, if you miss out on something, that means you miss an opportunity. You always miss out on something positive. You can't miss out on something negative. Yeah, you only miss out on good things. So maybe your friends all go to a concert and it was great, but you missed out on the concert. So very similar to miss the boat. Excellent. Miss the boat is miss something good as well, some kind of opportunity. So it's not that you would never say I missed out on the bus, yeah, because you just say I missed the bus, yeah, and it's not really an opportunity, the bus, it's just something that comes along. I agree it's a good thing, but don't say I missed out on the bus because that will sound weird. Just say I missed the bus, or I missed the lesson, or I missed the class. But you would say, you know, everybody else went on an amazing trip around Europe and unfortunately I missed out on that trip, maybe because I joined the company too late, something like that. Okay, if it makes sense to do something, it's logical, it's rational, it's reasonable, and so you should do it. Easy one. If you take note of something, it means don't ignore this thing. Take note of it. Yeah, make sure that you are aware of it and that you pay attention to it. Take note of it. In the event of something just means in this situation, in this case. So if you say something like in the event of fire, head for the fire escape, it means when there is a fire, head for the fire escape. So this is really quite common. Now, if you say speed is of the essence, it means speed is the most important thing that will help you. Maybe you'll say this exam is, you get really little time in this exam, so speed is of the essence. Just means you've really got to go fast in this exam. Don't slow down, otherwise you won't get through the whole paper. So speed is of the essence, okay? Now, if you are swept along by something, it means you get carried away, exactly the same as get carried away. So do remember this idiom, to get carried away. It's very useful. Very often people use it. But you can also say, I was swept along. Maybe you're at a crowd, you're at a concert or something like that, or maybe at a protest, yeah, a political protest on the streets, and you are swept along with all of the atmosphere of the place. Maybe it's an aggressive atmosphere or a violent atmosphere. Let's be honest, we all see that on the news sometimes. And I think young people, unfortunately, are very often swept along with the atmosphere of the protest, and they start throwing things as well. They join in, unfortunately. So they get carried away. They are swept along. When you are swept along with something, you can't resist joining in with what everybody else is doing, and it's very often swept along by an emotion. So very similar to get carried away. So please remember these two. And if you keep your wits about you, it just means you keep alert and ready, especially mentally ready, especially ready to ready in an intellectual sense, you know, ready for, I mean, your wits are it's your intelligence. So you keep your intelligence at the front of your mind. You don't fall asleep. You don't let yourself miss something. And so keep your wits about you just means be ready, be careful, be cautious, have your brain ready, because you might need to use your brain. And so it's always useful to keep your wits about you, really. It is useful to use your brain, to use your intellect. And that's all that one means. And so you might use it when if you're giving somebody advice, they're going somewhere dangerous. You might then say, keep your wits about you. And it just means don't be an idiot. Don't take your wallet out and start counting your money in public, because somebody might see that and decide you're a good you make an easy target, something like that, for a robbery. Okay, so that's all I've got for you today. I'm very sorry that I can't talk about these words and read your comments, but if any of you would like to try doing that, you'll immediately see how difficult it is. But of course, if you have any comments about any of these words, do put them under the video. And please do let me know about synonymous terms that you have on there, because if I just glance over and see a phrase like have a go at somebody and I think, yeah, that's exactly the same as jump down somebody's throat, or it's very similar, not quite the same, but very similar, I will write them up on the board, because I think that's really useful for the class. But if it's a comment about something totally unrelated, it's more likely just to totally distract me and stop the flow of the class. So if you do have any comments about synonymous terms, please write them up on the chat. You're being really helpful. But if you've got a comment about something totally unrelated, it's not actually as helpful. But please put any comments that you like under the video or on the side. I don't care. You know, if they look unhelpful, I just won't read them. Simple as that. I'll just ignore them. But I do encourage comments. I do encourage you to interact with this channel. And if I don't respond to all comments, some people have had a little whine about that. Some people have a bee in their bonnet about the fact that I don't reply to every comment. Well, I'm sorry, but you know, I have a full-time job and 2 children, and I'm writing a book at the moment. It takes a bit of my time up, and so please, on that topic, if any of you would like to buy my book, please go to Amazon, go to skype-lessons.com if Amazon doesn't deliver to your country, and get yourself a copy. There are a lot of phrasal verbs here, and believe me, I use this book every time I make one of these lessons, because I want to just check, have I already put that phrasal verb into a kind of group in my mind to make it easier to memorize. So I hope it makes it easier for you to memorize as well. So thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate your support. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.